Hi, Jamie Mayfield here. We're going to work on a little fun project today. This isn't going to be a sock, but if you're having trouble with a heel, the biggest problem with making a heel is knowing where to put your heel forks. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise that's going to show us and tell us and help us figure out how to get these heels made. Because honestly, once you get the heels down pat, you are good to go for a long time on this machine. There's lots of things to do and lots of things to learn, but I think the heels are probably the trickiest thing. So let's take a look and see what we can do, or if we can make a mess. Alright, here I'll get you guys just a little bit closer. Okay, so on this machine, the half marks are right here. We're going to raise the back half of the needles. Since we're making our first heel, or pretending like we're making our first heel, we're going to use half of the needles. Okay, now you'll hear us talk about deep heels and whatnot and what have you. A deep heel is where you use more than half the needles, but we don't want to have to worry about that right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we raise the back half of the needles and we're going to crank forward. Okay, now making a heel, you're going to raise the needle on the right side, knit the row. Raise the needle on the left side, knit the row. Raise, knit, raise, knit. Then you're going to lower knit, lower knit, lower knit. If it happens on the right side, it's got to happen on the left side. The left side is a mirror image. This happens to be a 54 cylinder. Now, as I start cranking back, do you see how my yarn is loosey-goosey? There's no tension on my yarn, so I have to engage the heel spring. Now, how I know that my heel spring is engaged properly is now the yarn is taut. Okay? So as I come back, everything's going just fine. I raised the needle on that side, so now I'm going to raise the needle on this side. I'm going to come back around. Okay? Now, see these stitches that didn't knit? Since we're just playing around, that's because there's no proper downward pressure. Okay? Now, this isn't a deal breaker. Remember, we're just playing because we're learning how to use the machine. You can also tell when these stitches ride up. Now, I tell you, if you really want to know how to do this, and this isn't helping you, if you join Sock TV, we do so much heel and toe work on Sock TV, you will understand how to make a heel. It'll be the best $10 you ever invested in. Okay? But for all intents and purposes right here, I want to use my fingers, okay? And I'm going to use my fingers to be my downward pressure, and that's going to tell me where do I need to put my forks. So I've raised the needle on that side. And let me get my hand in here. Okay, now if I do this, raise the needle on this side, okay? You can see where my fingers are holding. But if I only wanted to hold two fingers, like as in the sweet spot, I would hold them out here because that would, way down there, because that would give me downward pressure on all of these needles, okay? Now, so I've got my needle raised on that side, and I'm trying to do this where you guys can see, so it's a little awkward with me, because I would normally use my hand like this, and then y'all couldn't see a thing. So this last needle did not knit, and that means that I did not have enough proper downward pressure in this corner. And the corners are where you're always going to get your troubles. So I'll just manually knit that one. Now, let's come back around here. Okay. Alright. Raise the needle on that side. We're going to crank back around. Now, if you use your fingers, we're doing this exercise, so again, these last three needles didn't knit. See that? That means I didn't have any downward pressure on that side. Okay, so I can manually knit these. Okay, we're going to raise this needle. Now, I'm going to stick my finger right there. Stick my finger right there, especially by those stitches, because I keep not getting the downward pressure in that area. Okay. And that's going to teach you that you only need your heel forks under these working needles. Okay? We don't need to worry about holding downward pressure out here because these needles aren't knitting. So, let's see, we raised our needle. Let's come back around. And guess what? Shocker! I didn't have enough downward pressure on this side. My little pinky finger is not doing its job. Okay. Now, I have seen people that do all of their heels and toes with their fingers. Guess what? Again, you would think by now the machine would have me trained to be double sure that my pinky finger isn't flaking out on everything. Let's see, if I put my hand like that, nope, you can't see a darn thing. Alright. So now you can see how I'm using my fingers as I would 3 heel forks. Guess what? One more time. Okay. So, now I got it on this side. I didn't have enough downward pressure in those corners. What did I tell you about the corners? They will give you fits. That is how your machine trains you to know where to put your downward pressure. So, let me stick my thumb over here this time. And by golly, those babies knit. Alright, now I'm going to raise that needle. And I could have told you because I saw it happen. Not enough downward pressure. Do I sound like a broken record yet? Okay, so I'm going to lower, holding my fingers right here in the front only under these working needles. Oh, it was too late. I remembered too late to put my thumb where that last, I guess my pinky's just a flake of a pinky. Alright, so let's give it a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's count on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, our count got off. Imagine that. So let's do this. Oh, well, it would have been 8, and I raised the 9th needle on this side. Our count is not off. Okay, now let me get my fingernail in that corner. I'll raise needle number 9 on this side. Come back around, get downward pressure on both those. Let's see, did I get it? I think I didn't. Yeah, it knit. No, it didn't. Something's weird there, but it doesn't really matter. So we have 9 needles on this side, 9 needles on this side, and 9 needles in the front. So I would call the decreases done. It is time for the increases. And since we're just playing, let's go ahead and put these 2, needle number 8 and needle number 9, let's put those back to work. Now let's see where we can get away. And right now, see what I'm doing? I'm pinching down in the middle. And that is going to provide downward pressure on all of the stitches except for that last one. Alright, let's put needle 8 and 9 down on this side. And I'm going to pull down, Same spot, same little pinchy spot. I didn't pinch hard enough. Yes, this is a broken record. But that's okay, because we're just playing. Sometimes I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to make socks too fast before we kind of know what we're doing. Alright, now let's give it a pinch. Let's lower this one. Still pinching. Lower this one. Still pinching in the very same spot. I haven't moved my pinch. Okay, now the yarn we're using is from the Zig and Zag bundle. Okay, still my pinch is in the same spot, and I've got downward pressure on all these needles except that my watch got stuck, and I let go for just a second, and those two stitches right there did not knit. But I don't really care, because this is never going to be a sock. But it would be such a cool sock because it's got that lime green tip. Okay, so let's put this needle down. Still pinching, and this little lime green spot, that's where the join of the increases and decreases, those were the needles left in work. So that's where we want to get our downward pressure. Now it's kind of much harder on the increase, but the point is I want you to see where I'm putting that downward pressure. Right there, and that holds downward pressure on all these needles, except of course for this very last one. Okay, this is not an exercise in how to manually knit stitches. Okay. Complete the row, bring it around. Okay. Now, the next thing, after you get control of this, then you're going to have a little gap where the heel join comes together. Okay? That'll be the next thing. Now, if you want that gap to disappear, okay, here's my half mark. Here's the first needle I decreased. This is the second needle that I decreased, okay? So when I lower the second one on this side, it's the last time I'm going to go backwards, okay? So we decreased 9. Well, that was a good view, wasn't it? We're only going to increase 8. So here's my half mark. Here's the first needle I decreased. Here's the second needle I decreased. I just lowered it. Watch that yarn wrap around there. And remember, I have to be my downward pressure. But in order to avoid that gap, I'm going to stop a row early. So we've decreased 9. We're only increasing 8. And that's going to make that gap not happen. Now, let's see. I have to go like this. And until I put some sort of a weight in there, and this is not a good place for your soft weight because your soft weight would fall down into the tube, until I can either lift the buckle over that heel or until I can put a weight down in there from underneath, like the V-hook or the heel forks or whatever, you can see where it has to be in order to give downward pressure on all these stitches. Okay, so that's a fun little exercise. The other thing you can do is pinch as soon as it gets a little length on it. You can pinch from the underneath side, but apparently I didn't do a very good job pinching, because look at all those stitches that didn't knit. Okay, it was a fun exercise. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, so give it a try and let's see what happens.